You know, our show has been stuck on 863,000 subscribers for, I don't know, about 5 years now. We used to add 30,000 subscribers a month. And we just went through an election cycle, and that should have happened on steroids. It didn't. So they're suppressing us. So what that means is they unsubscribe people from your channel because they don't want us to get to 1 million. And because there's a special thing about hitting 1 million. So they don't want, why would YouTube do that, Jimmy? Because they're afraid that advertisers will get upset. And so it's in their interest to suppress us. And so they are. Now, there's a couple of different YouTube algorithms. There's one for the corporate news. The corporate news being like MSNBC, Fox, Vox, or also The Rising on The Hill. The Hill, that's a big corporate place. The Young Turks, that's a big corporate place. So they're on the corporate algorithm. So they don't get people unsubscribed from their shows. They get their content boosted. Like right now, if you go to YouTube and you type in George Floyd, you will not get one independent news show's coverage of George Floyd comes up. It'll be MSNBC, CNN, ABC, NBC, The Hill, The Young Turks. It'll be stuff like that. YouTube CEO says it's easy to make up content and post it from your basement, so we boost authoritative sources. She sounds like someone who works for a competitor of YouTube.
Yeah.
Why are you aping the same language that your detractors of YouTube use to describe your content creators? Why don't you just say we're in our pajamas too, and in our mom's basement? Yes. So she does that. She goes, "Oh, so it's easy. It's easy." What does that mean? It's easy. What's harder about lying about Syria than it is to tell? It's way harder to do the research that we had to do, find out the facts, and then stick your chin out to report them without getting deplatformed from YouTube. That takes courage and a lot of hard work. So the CEO of YouTube sounds like a competitor to YouTube. She's shitting on her own product. That's how fucked up the corporate world is right now. That's how censorship works. That's how the establishment needs to control the narrative. And they don't control it anymore, and it's scaring the shit out of them. So the New York Times and CNN write hit pieces about people like us so that people like her are afraid to have us on her platform. That's how this works. So if you're doing good work on YouTube, you're going to be deplatformed, and she's going to say it's easy to do it from your basement, even though we're outperforming the people we're up against in the legacy media. And by the way, I couldn't get the people at YouTube to admit this. Here she is admitting. I'm like, it's just nuts. So now they're admitting it publicly. So I've had meeting after meeting with people from YouTube asking them to admit that they have separate algorithms for corporations than they do for their independent producers, and they won't admit it. Here she is admitting it. When is this from? I don't know what day. That doesn't have the day. Can you see when? Can you see when this is from? Look that up. Yeah, I will. So here she is admitting it. She's admitting that. So when people go to YouTube for news, they don't get YouTube news, meaning you, me, us, you doing the tubing. When they go to YouTube for news, they don't get YouTube news. They get corporate news. It's corporate tube. It's establishment tube for news.
Used to tube.
Used to be YouTube.
April 8th, 2021.
So this is from April 8th. She said this. So she's admitting now we're suppressing YouTube, our own content creators, in favor of legacy media, which has gotten every major story wrong and constantly does propaganda. There's already places for people to go to get that news. You can go to MSNBC.com. You can go to CNN.com. You can go to NewYorkTimes.com. There's already places to get all that media information if you want it.
You can go to an airport hangar or a lobby at a hotel. That's what they always have it on there. That's how they inflate their numbers.
That's right. It's on every bar I've ever gone into, every restaurant they're always there. It's being played. It's being played in hotels, being played in airports. Every goddamn airport plays it. They don't need YouTube to play legacy fucking media, but that's what they're doing. YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki acknowledged the platform's policy of boosting authoritative mainstream media sources and suppressing independent creators. Something I could not get YouTube to admit to me in a private meeting. YouTube CEO said the policy makes it harder in some cases for channels, maybe who are getting started or smaller, to be able to be visible when there's a major event or when people are looking at something that is news related. So what she's saying is always.
Yes.
So if you go to YouTube to look at something that is news related, you won't see it because it's being suppressed. Not just breaking news. There's not when there's a major event, just at any time when people are looking for something that is news related. We're going to suppress that. But the policy is really, really important.
To who?
To who exactly? It's much easier to just make up content and post it from your basement. What does that mean? What are you talking about?
Well, it's easy to just make up stuff and post it from your basement. It's hard to copy and paste a press release from someone with authority. That's hard.
Than it is to actually go to the site and to be able to report and have high-quality journalistic reporting.
Let me know when the corporate media starts doing that.
When are they going to do that? When are they going to cover that?
Well, I mean, I'll give them kudos. I mean, there's that water crisis in Mississippi that was barely talked about, and they went down. Oh, wait, no, that was Status Quo. I'm sorry. That wasn't corporate media. That was an independent source.
Yeah, remember how they covered Flint, Michigan? Oh, no, that was Status Quo. I remember how they covered, it's just crazy. Remember how they covered the insurrection? Oh, no, that was Status Quo, and that was also Convo Couch.
Yeah, and then the legacy media takes their content and uses it. And then they get in trouble for said content.
And so what she's saying here is it's much easier to make up content. What about if you go to the site and you report, you're an actual reporter like Jordan Cheriton or say, I don't know, the people at Convo Couch? How about that? Oh, well, then we'll use their content, their video that they get at that incident, but we'll then suppress it on their channel and boost it on CNN's channel.
Well, and sometimes it's even worse than that. They've taken it down.
Yes, they've taken down Jordan stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
it's much easier to just make up content and post it from your basement than it is to actually go to the site and to be able to report and have high-quality journalistic reporting. And so that was just an example of what happens if you don't have that kind of ranking. Wow. So sure, we want to enable citizen journalism and other people to be able to report and be able to share information on new channels. But when we're dealing with a sensitive topic, we have to have that information coming from authoritative sources so that the right and accurate information is viewed by our users first. Well, that's the whole point of YouTube, to counteract the establishment narrative that isn't correct. Like WMDs, like Libya, like Syria, like a million things. That's why we have YouTube. That's why there's citizen journalists, to give a different point of view. She's saying we don't want to give the citizens' point of view on YouTube. We don't want to do that. We don't want to give the citizen journalist point of view on YouTube. Well, that's not YouTube then, is it? The interviewer followed up by pointing out that such a policy seemed to go against the whole principle of YouTube. I mean, your name is YouTube. The whole principle is that anyone, can have complete free speech and publish whatever they want. Or that was the founding principle. It's YouTube, not used tube. Last year, YouTube's chief product officer, Neil Mohan, said, and so, as opposed to, it's somebody espousing their opinions about a mask, in their basement. This is coming from an authoritative channel, a news source, a medical professional. And if that's the case, we think there's going to be some context that's provided. It will be reflected in sort of how an authoritative voice or channel talks about it. Oh, really? Because regular people won't know the difference between somebody in their basement or a news channel? That's why you have... So here's an authoritative person. Want to hear what he says about masks? And apparently he's not in his basement. He's on 60 Minutes. Listen to what he says about masks.
Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks.
You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. when you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
And can you get some schmutz sort of staying inside there?
Of course. But when you...
That's authoritative news. That's a lie. He was lying. He would later admit that he was lying in that interview. And the reason why he was lying was because he didn't want you to go out and buy masks to protect yourself, even though he knew it would protect you. He lied to you so you wouldn't wear a mask. And so now who knows how many thousands of people got sick because he gave that incorrect information on purpose, not a mistake. He gave that incorrect information on purpose. And now how many thousands of people didn't wear a mask and got sick and died because of those lies? Now his channel's not taken down. 60 Minutes, that video's still up. They'll never correct that. There are just as many examples that show mainstream media outlets aren't infallible and are very capable of spreading inaccurate information. And that it causes wars and shit. An example of fake news from a mainstream media outlet that's particularly relevant in light of basement analogies, they keep bringing up basement, is CNN's Chris Cuomo. He staged his exit from self-isolation in his basement, soon forced to admit he left his house a week earlier. And here it is. Chris Cuomo cleared to end self-quarantine. Chris Cuomo emerges from quarantine 14 days later. That was fake. He made it up. He lied. If I did that, my channel would be taken down. If I got caught lying about COVID. Nothing even happened to that guy. Did he even trend on Twitter about that? No. Maybe he should interview a Boogaloo boy. Then people will get mad at him. Yet they're given a pass because YouTube has decided that they're authoritative. Videos from mainstream media outlets reporting on fake find the fraud Trump quotes or uncritically covering CNN's Chris Cuomo stage exit from basement quarantine still tops YouTube search results. Even though that's fake news. Here you go. Trump pressured Georgia elections investigator to find the fraud in separate call. That's fake. That didn't happen. That's still up. That's got almost 1 million views. Trump pressured Georgia election investigator to find the fraud in previous December call. That's fake. Videos from independent creators that provide more accurate information and debunk these fake mainstream media narratives are available, but because YouTube boosts these so-called authoritative sources, they're suppressed so deeply in the search results that they're almost impossible to find. So you could go in there and type in Jordan Chariton, January 6th, it won't come up. Other changes include YouTube's increased censorship of independent creators via new far-reaching policies and YouTube's consistent crackdowns on engagement features such as comments and dislikes. This policy of boosting so-called authoritative sources while suppressing independent creators is one of several changes over the past few years that reflects YouTube's move away from its founding principle of allowing anyone to create, share, and interact with videos online. So it's no longer YouTube. It's censorship tube and corporate media tube. That's not why people come to YouTube. I don't come to YouTube to watch Chris Cuomo and CNN create YouTube videos. I come to watch Americans create YouTube videos. Regular, non-corporate, non-bought, non-influenced by the military-industrial complex, Big Pharma, and Wall Street. Those are the videos I want to see. I don't want to see videos from news organizations that get their funding from the people they're supposed to be exposing. That's called corruption. The legacy news medias aren't authoritative. They're corrupt. And I'm telling this to the CEO of YouTube because I know she'll probably see this. So just so you know, they're corrupt. And just so you know, Anthony Fauci's one of the biggest liars about masks. I should just put that video up on my channel just as itself. and go, don't wear masks, and see if they take it down. So she doesn't know or doesn't care that YouTube debunks the mainstream news media. That's why we're here. We debunk them. Aaron Mate came on my show for 2 years to debunk Russiagate, and he won an award for it. He won the Independent News Award. The Independent News Award, not the Corporate News Award. He won the Independent News Award, the I.F. Stone, the Izzy Award, for debunking Russiagate, which was pushed on the legacy media, the authoritative media, at the top of their lungs uncritically. We debunked that here. I want the CEO of YouTube to know that. That's what YouTube is great at, and you want to suppress it. YouTube should be a public utility. It never will be, because Silicon Valley, people from YouTube are right inside Joe Biden's administration, and they own the Democratic Party. They donate to Joe Biden's. And did you know? I just found out today that Uber donated $1 million to Joe Biden's what do you call it?
His campaign?
No, not the campaign, but his inauguration thing. They just donated $1 million. Give it to Joe Biden's inauguration event. Here's $1 million. Go throw a party. Now, I can't do that. I don't have $1 million to give to Joe Biden. But Silicon Valley does, and they want us suppressed. And so we're getting suppressed. Go ahead, Brian.
And you know, like, big picture here, too. It is not unfathomable. And I know, like, the issue of digital rights is still a largely, like, it does not receive the coverage it should. And there are a lot of organizations in the country fighting for it, and they're doing amazing things. Fight for the Future is one of them. Free Press. There's a lot of them. And it is so important because in the big scheme of things, look, the internet is just another medium. And the powers that be, because they want to control the narrative and because they want to make money, they always try to control the medium. They did it with radio. They did it with television. And I know it's hard to fathom because the internet is still it's just such this big, vast thing. But at the end of the day, it's still just another medium. And what's going to come after the internet? Well, I have no idea. It's hard to even guess what that could be. But they're going to try to control that too. They already are. And they're preparing for, you know, kind of a society where the internet is very heavily under their thumb. And it goes into stuff like this, and it goes into net neutrality, and it goes into, just social media being able to do whatever they want, and the consumer has no say in the matter. So, you know, we need some real policy that meets the moment, or there will be a time in history where we talk about what the internet used to be like, and I hope we don't see that day. I really don't. And I actually have a stand-up show at 7:30, so I do have to run here.
Okay, we're done. All right. I think that day is today, Ron, by the way. The internet, I remember what it used to be. Remember the old algorithm? I remember how we used to be able to be super successful? Remember that? Hey, everybody, this is the part where I tell you where all our live shows are, but there aren't any. And then this is why I tell you to join our premium program and get extra content, but nobody's got a fucking job. So just enjoy the video.